past failure does not dictate future events.
New open forum excerpt. A listener calls in to ask a question about Mark 13:32 and the church's adamant position that no man can know the day and the hour of Christ's return, based off this verse alone. Mark 13:32. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. And now, let's hear the listener ask their question.
I want to ramble a minute, and I have a question going to Mark 13:31, then verse 32. Seems to be the anchor of their argument, the churches, about the Son. Did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you. You wanted to ramble first, right?
Yeah. I really feel like in my heart that they're actually condemning themselves. I don't know if I'm going to say this right. I hope I'm not being ugly. By not recognizing the spiritual nature, because I hear many speak and they begin to ridicule the spiritual understanding, and it seems to me they're literally condemning themselves, because God's spirit and you worship Him in spirit and truth. So I feel like they're so busy looking in the rearview mirror at history and revering the reformers and such of old time, who only were given what they were given, beings that God's message, His revelation, continues on. And it's like they're stuck way back there because that's the only way they know is grammatical, historical. And with that in mind, Mark 13:31, I was just reading it, and it says, all these things come to pass, but my words shall not pass away. It's like God even, is that noting that there is a progressive nature there, even in that verse, stating, I will reveal, I'm the revealer, I'm the revelation, I am the one that reveals. Not, it says for us to study to show yourself approved, but in the end, you have to bow the knee and say, Lord, I don't understand. Help me in my inability to understand. Show me the right way. And I remember Brother Camping talking about the different levels of understanding, the historical, the moral, and the spiritual. I don't know if anything I said made any sense, but then their whole crux of their argument for the not knowing is the word Son in 32. After 31, when he talks about all these things got to come to pass, and the Son, the word there is capitalized. That couldn't be son of perdition, could it?
Well, yeah. Let's read the verses in Mark 13. Mark 13:31, 32. It says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father.
Before Chris addresses the caller's question about who the Son could be and the other points he made, he first talks about the list of failed dates in the past and how those in the churches use this as proof and confirmation, along with Mark 13:32, that we can't know when Christ returns.
Not pass away, but of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. And one thing that churches trust in, and a lot of people trust in, is past failure, at least as they see it. And they are correct. There has been a lot of failure as far as looking or declaring a date for the end of the world. But they trust in it. They have confidence in it. I mean, I don't know how many times somebody has said or will tell me, Well, this is going to fail just like everyone in the past. You want me to give you a list? And sometimes they'll give you a list. They'll give you a list of all the failures that have happened in the past, and they're leaning upon it. They're leaning upon the fact that all these, um, you know, um, individuals in the past. Now, they lump everyone together. First of all, they'll lump Jehovah's Witnesses and as Mr. Camping used to say, someone who had a bad tamale. So they'll put people who have obvious other gospels and people who are looking at blood moons. It's all physical. It's all they throw it all together into the mix, and look at all these failures, and you can come up with a long line, a whole lot of names, a whole lot of dates that have failed. But if first of all you would classify them properly and say, okay, all other gospels and people who are basically picking a date out of the hat over here, and serious, earnest, presentations, or people like Mr. Camping who went to the Bible, held the Bible in high esteem, searched the scriptures diligently, and so forth over here. And yes, you would have a couple or a few in time past that didn't work out. And people understand this, or they've come to understand it more in the natural world, in the physical world, that past failure does not dictate future events. Look at what's his name? The inventor. Was it Edison? Edison. Who spoke about failing 10,000 times, and yet he didn't see it as failure. It's just, I found 10,000 ways it won't work, and yet it does work eventually. It does work. Persistence and endurance. You keep at it because there's something, and even in the natural world, it was God really working in these people because he had a plan to unfold at the time of the end. There needed to be an electronic medium, therefore the secrets of the electron and all these inventions, electricity and telephones and all these things had to be. And so really the Lord is the one who controls even unsaved man and will seal his instructions upon his bed while he sleeps. And the Lord put it in these men. Don't give up. Don't listen. Don't listen to these naysayers, or look at the invention of flight. The Wright brothers who finally were able to get off the ground. And just think how many times in the centuries previous were there men trying to fly, and there were a much longer list than those that have put forth a date for the end of the world. Much longer list, and they do the same thing. There were some men, they just kind of watch a bird. Oh, let me glue some feathers on a couple of things and connect it, and they'll be my wings. And they jumped off their garage roof and collapsed. And then you had more serious attempts to fly. As time was going on, the science was basically developing, and they're getting to the point where we think we can do this, and a need for persistence, a need for endurance. You have to continue. And yet every time when it would fail, how many people, and this is the easiest and laziest thing to say, how many people would say, I told you men would never fly. I told you. Just look at how many times man has tried to fly and failed. How many times, and he'll never fly. And what could anybody say? What could anybody say? Up until then, men hadn't flown. And so these naysayers, in their time, oh yeah, they act like they're the wise ones. Yeah, we're the wise ones for not trying. We're the smart ones, we have it all figured out. You'd save yourself all kinds of trouble, broken bones, even death in some cases. Give it up. And yet today, despite the recent events with some airlines and airplanes, men fly in practically every city in the world. And I know we're talking about a spiritual thing when we're speaking of the things the Bible says, and it's not a natural thing. But the point, the similarity is that men, even in physical things, natural things, will look to past failure, to things that have never been, and they will draw a conclusion and act as though this is fact. This is reality. You cannot just walk into a room and flip a switch and lights will appear. You cannot fly. You cannot have the technology we take for granted today. And here it all is. Here it all is. So the trust that so many so-called Christians have, that you can never know, and it's not because they're finding, they'll come to Mark 13:32, Matthew 24:36, a couple of verses, and yet that's not what it's based on really, because they misunderstand those verses. They have superficial understanding of them. It's based on a very carnal, physical thing. Well, nobody's ever been right before about the end of the world, obviously. Therefore, no one ever will be correct about the end of the world. Obviously, there is their wrong conclusion. And it's a trust in past failure, and that's proved in the world itself, always, or not always, but very often, those who trust in that kind of thing are proven wrong. So here, there is progressive revelation, and God, at the time of the end, has brought forth so much information that the people of God, we stand amazed at the just the amount of information that has never previously been known or understood, that has come forth, and it's all from the Bible. It's all proven from the Bible itself as we follow the biblical methodology. In verse 32, but of that day and that hour, and day and hour is a synonym for judgment. God uses day by itself, the day of the Lord, and hour by itself, the hour of judgment. And here he in a couple of places, he joins them together. The day and hour, it's a synonym for judgment, and the context will determine which judgment is in view. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. And here we can look at this not knowing a couple of different ways, and I think both are true. One, no man knows of himself. No man knows. This is the same, lack of knowledge that we find in Matthew 11, that says in verse 25, "At that time Jesus answered and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for it seemed good in thy sight. All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son, but the Father. Neither knoweth any man the Father, save the Son." And that's very same words. No man knoweth the Son, but the Father. And neither knoweth any man the Father. What does man know about God? Of ourselves. What do we know about the things of God without the Bible, without God telling us? Nothing. Nothing. And so it goes on, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. That's the part God didn't write in Matthew 24:36 and in Mark 13:32. Of that day and hour of the judgment, no man knows, because man doesn't know anything about anything spiritual. Nothing. Certainly not the end of the world, not the time, not the judgment, the nature of the judgment, spiritual judgment. We didn't know that. Man doesn't know a thing. But, as it says elsewhere in the Bible, the secret things belong unto God, and he reveals them to his children. Deuteronomy 29:29. Jehovah God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets. Amos 3:7. And many other verses. God reveals. Matthew 24, verse 36. No man knows. Next verse, the Lord starts talking about Noah. And his coming will be as it was in the days of Noah. Well, guess what? Noah knew the exact day. And a couple verses after that, the flood came and took them all away. They knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So, who didn't? God did reveal the day to Noah. He did not reveal the day to the ungodly who were outside the ark. That is the consistent theme of the Bible. God reveals his secret to his servants. He does not reveal them to the wicked. So the wicked will not know, and the elect will know.